Tonight we're here to talk about the future of Zion, and this is obviously our first meeting. We can't say we'll have all the answers now, but it's a chance to hear some of the plans that we've been thinking about and to ask questions and see what you think and what you want to happen with Zion. So Evan is going to be filming the stage area as a record, so we've got that, so you're aware of that. I'll just introduce the directors. So we have Serena, who's on tech support at the minute. Amy, if you want to give a wave. Lovely Emma, Andy, Claire, obviously no Jess, and Martin, who's had to send his apologies this evening. So first of all, we'll hear from Jess, who'll give an introduction. Amy's going to talk about what Zion means to her. Emma's going to talk about the options we've been exploring. Then there'll be a chance for question and answer session. Andy's going to talk about getting involved, and then at the end there'll be free tea and coffee, and the bar will be open if you want to buy a drink. So hand over to Jess.
Hello everybody, can you hear me all right? If anybody just wants to take a minute to shuffle around, find a seat, feel free. I'm just going to shuffle some paper while you do that. But it's lovely that you're all here and it's a full house. I've been pacing up and down all day because I didn't know what to expect. It kind of reminds me of when the gable wall fell in. And we won't go back to that point, but anyway. But thank you very much for being here. It means an awful lot to have everybody here. It means that you do care, which is lovely. I'm just going to talk very briefly about where we are now, and I will be around at the end to answer any questions that I can. The reason why I won't be so involved is it will probably become clear, and I'm going to get upstaged by the cat again. There's always a cat upstaging me. Anyway, so I'll be around afterwards having a large drink, so feel free to come and chat to me then. And then... oh, for God's sake. Every time. And when I start speaking, you're going to squeak, aren't you? But I get to do my Chris Whitty bit, don't I, Serena? With the, which is, first slide is this one, great. So for those, I mean, some of you might have heard this story a million times. Thank you, Nolly, on cue. But this obviously was once a Methodist church that closed in 2009. And the Methodists put it up for sale, as they have with many chapels. Nolly, could you be quiet, please? And I came across it when it was put up for sale and just walked in, and it was an empty building. I think Tanya's going to try and save the day by trying to get her cat. I'm just going to try and talk through it. Anyway, so it was put up for sale by the Methodist Church, and I was working in North Street at the time. I had a shop down there, and I lived down the road. And I was looking for a space, probably not this one, but I bought it from the Methodist Church with a loan from Triodos Bank. So it is a very unusual setup. The idea was to open it as a community space. So this was what I saw when I first came in then, and it had literally been left by the Methodist Church overnight. There were Bibles everywhere, and it was, as you can see, a church building. And you can see the organ in the background, and I guess some of you may not know that either, but it was like that for quite a long time. But it's now a 2-bedroom house behind that wall. And there was a different cat in the building, equally noisy then. So that was the building as it was then, and that's what I saw when I came in. But it did have a lovely feeling when I walked in. It was a beautiful building. It was obviously well used by this community. And I knew that Richard Eddy, as the councillor then, they wanted to save it as a community space. And as did I, except I didn't really know what that meant. But we just kind of opened the doors. So if I could have the next slide, please. So we opened the doors, and this was one of the first programs. I use the word loosely. It was a postcard, basically. If anybody want to come in and try and find a seat, feel free. If you can find anything at the back, I might wait for those two to come in. So we had a postcard in those days which summed up the month You probably can't see, but it says Children's Film Club, Kid Craft, Crafty Hour. It was a very basic program because I didn't really know what to do, what to expect, or what anybody wanted. So we have moved from that to what we have now, which is 20-page printed program, which is now also a sort of local newsletter where we try and promote local trades and everything else that's going on in the area. So I think it's come quite a long way. If we could go to the next one, please. And encompasses everything. I just couldn't begin to put... I mean, VAR's film is being shot this year. It gives a snippet of what we've done here. But this is just some of the stuff. Obviously, the Kids Festival and weddings are things that we try and do. But there is a million things, which I think the next slide will describe better. Some fancy animation, so I'll wait for that to catch up. So these are things that have happened in the last 10 years. Andy's put together a spreadsheet of everything based on just what went in the programme. I mean, that's the only thing we've got a record of. There were loads more events that we don't have a record of. But over 100 quiz nights, 85 theatre shows, over 130 kids events, over 75 music events, over 20 films, over 40 pamper nights, over 100 food events or bar nights. And that just covers things that we pre-planned. But also alongside that, we're obviously running a daytime cafe. And then there's the regular groups like the Memories Cafe, the History Group, the Writing Group, the Breastfeeding Support Group, and the kids' activities that we ran twice a week. That's just alongside all of that. So it's been a very busy 10 years, which is amazing, but it's quite a packed programme. And I just wanted to quickly show, if we could see the next slide, which is also the garden space. And this is what it, well, that's like even better than it once was. When I first walked in, it was completely overgrown. And there was a family of foxes living there. And we had a lot of volunteers that helped transform it into what it is now. Now, actually, the garden space, to confess, is part of the house. It's not actually part of this. But as me and Tanya live here, and we know how important it is to have a garden space, then we obviously let the community use it every day. And then we just moved to how Zion looks today, which is where you're sat. And it has been a slow transformation. I mean, the building is beautiful. We didn't really want to change it too much, but obviously we needed to adapt it. So it's been slow to move it from, and I think the next slide will just compare how the spaces have moved on. So not massively different, but different enough that you can see. So that's just really to sum up 10 years. We could go on for hours really talking. When I was doing all of the looking through the Excel sheets, every event that I was counting, I had a snapshot of a memory, which was interesting, of all the things that have happened here. The other thing I just wanted to touch on is the financial side. So you may be thinking, you know, what's COVID done? Is that why you're leaving or stepping down? And this is to make it clear it's not, because financially, so you can see when we opened, I think I had £5,000 budget when I opened the space, and I bought a coffee filter machine. The furniture, the tables we still use, I bought them from an auction. They came from a pub, so they've done 10 years service. The chairs you're sitting on haven't. They were about 6 years old probably now. But it was very hand to mouth to begin with as we built up our income. And you'll see that I've been told by people who are financially more knowledgeable than me that actually this is quite a good reflection of a financial graph. You can see there is a peak there, and that's more to do with when the gable wall fell in, a story for another day for those who don't know. And we had to have some work done, we closed, and that's reflected there because we had some funding came in, we had to fundraise, we had to get grants to get it fixed, and so there's a little peak, and then as we make our way back to our usual income afterwards. So this takes us up to 2022, and I can pretty much fairly accurately predict what the year end will be in 22, and what I'm pleased to say is we're really back to pre-COVID levels of financial, and we have a reserves pot. So to clarify, financially we're in a good position, and that's partly the reason for doing it now, as well as I never wanted to go and leave a problem behind. I wanted to make sure that this was a working space, which is what we have now. So there are three main reasons for me stepping down. The first one is space. I mean, you will all be aware from events and coming to the cafe, this is our space. I mean, even tonight, you know, wouldn't it be lovely if you could all sit comfortably in a chair? It's lovely to have you all here, but we only have this one space. So that causes an issue. We have a cafe that is open Tuesday to Friday, and outside of the cafe hours, we hire the space out. Now, we are completely booked up until 2022, and I could have booked it 3 times over for the inquiries that I get. So certainly as soon as the restrictions lifted, the emails came flooding in. So there is demand for the space. And the obvious space is our house, because it's a 2-bedroom house that could be adapted to office space, meeting space, and people could have meetings. I get emails, obviously, for meetings, for groups that want to meet, for people that just want to hire it out, like therapists, for wakes, for all kinds of reasons. And unless they can work alongside the cafe, I can't accommodate them. So that's the major thing for us to carry on, to grow. We need more space. Secondly is a financial reason, as in terms of, like I say, it's an unusual setup for a person to own a building that is a community building. It's not really known. It's caused problems over the years, but because people don't really understand that, because it just doesn't really exist in many places. So, for example, we wanted to get a beautiful building. It's not really fit for purpose. So for people coming in with wheelchairs or buggies, the entranceway was really difficult, and you'll remember the old doors that used to be there. We wanted more work to be done in the entranceway, but it cost a lot of money, and the lottery were really interested in helping us, but they couldn't give us any money because it's a privately owned building, which is fair enough. But this building is over 100 years old, and it will always need TLC, it will need work. We've done as much as we can over the years. But we are not funded as a community space. To make that very clear as well, we are self-financing through the cafe and through the events. So we always wanted to be a sustainable business, and we are pretty much there. There'll always be stuff we do get funding for, say, for example, children's festivals. You know, in order to afford to put on the children's festival, we'd be asking West End theatre prices, which we're obviously not going to do. So things like that do get funded, but that's specific projects. The rest of it is we try and generate the income. And the third reason is really to go back to the slide with all the events. Is it's been 10 years, and it's been predominantly me programming all of those events, which is not ideal for a long-term solution for a community space. Firstly, because it's quite tiring, because although we have a great team of staff here, I also am backup for those staff, and also it's not up to the staff to have the responsibility of everything. So more people getting involved is better for the space, because also I'm reflecting my taste most of the time, not everybody's taste here. You know, I try and incorporate ideas that people have, but the more people involved in a space like this, the better. So obviously people asking me what's happening, where we're going. Me and Tanya are, I don't know where she's gone. Oh, out there with the cat. We are separate people. We are not getting divorced. But we may be doing different things. In terms of Tanya is undecided whether she would stay on or not, because she has a different role here. She's the chef and it's up to her. She doesn't know how it's going to be, nor do I. But there are things I would love to do. I mean, you know, I like animals, and it would be great to have a space that we didn't have to clear all the animals away for people to come in each morning. But I've got no major plans because I don't know what's going to happen here. What I do know is that I'm around to help the transition. If we get to do the perfect scenario that Emma will talk about with the community shares, I would be here for that. But I've got no major plans, just ideas of things I would like to do, but I can't be more specific than that. So that said, if you think of a question afterwards and I've had a good glass of wine, I'll give it a guess. But it's too unpredictable to know what's going to happen, so I don't have any plans yet. I think that's me. But thank you for coming.
Thanks very much, Jess. We're going to hear from Amy now about what Zion means to her. So come on up, Amy.
Hello, a lot of you. I've been asked to talk about what Zion means to me. This is difficult to put into words as it means so much in lots of different ways, but here goes. I moved into the area 9 years ago, and Zion was a great place to meet new people, feel welcomed, and it became a safe place for me, and I know many others feel the same, a sanctuary where I can always come. Like me, you'll always be greeted with a friendly face when you arrive. I've been lucky, I've met some lovely friends through Zion, and it's opened lots of opportunities for me. Zion is a coffee and cake date with friends, a chance to try something new, be creative, creative writing, flower arranging, or a psychic evening. An evening with my mum at Pamper Night, food out with Steve, a night out with friends at bar night, and laughs at comedy night. It's also been a reason to leave the house when my girls were small, and during lockdown for a takeaway coffee on our daily walk. Zion is now also a registered community place of safety, so they will always be there for anyone in times of need. Zion has provided lots of diverse events and evening entertainment that I have enjoyed, and I came for breastfeeding support when I was on the verge of giving up, and the advice helped me carry on. We also chose Zion for the morning after our wedding breakfast with 50 friends and family, and for birthday parties for the girls. Zion has fed me morning, noon and night on many occasions with the most delicious foods. In lockdown, I helped Jess to organise the collection and distribution of care packages for local key workers. It is also a collection station for the much-needed local food bank, starting in lockdown and continuing now on a Thursday and a Friday. I was also able to help deliver packages for the groups that meet at Zion and couldn't during the past 18 months, so that people still felt connected. And for many older residents, this is a lifeline. It is a great intergenerational space, and Zion and its staff will always go that extra mile. Zion has provided so many amazing activities for my children over the years. They love it here just as much as me, and Jess is willing to help make an idea a reality. The popular Advent windows, the Snell Trail, and the Halloween Trail for local children that I helped with last year. Last week, I knocked on doors of local houses to meet some residents and talk about the future of Zion, ask what they liked about the area and what they wanted to see more of. It was evident that we all value what Zion brings to our community and would like to see this to continue and develop. What a shame it would be for us to lose this vital asset. I love Zion and all the people in it, and I feel as a community we are extremely lucky to have it and all that it offers. There is nowhere else like it. Nowhere else offers all that Zion does. Please use it so we don't lose it. I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to Jess for all her dedication to Zion over the last 10 years and for making it the amazing space that it is. I also want to thank the wonderful staff who are professional, friendly and helpful and keep it a place that everyone wants to come to. So, the future. I'm sure you're all here this evening to see how you can help keep Zion going and to see it grow. Please complete the slips that are around to help us gather information on who can help and what skills you may have. It could be anything from lifting and shifting, bit of IT, project management, or you might know a local musician that might want to come and play. Anything would be welcomed and appreciated. The last thing we'd want for us is for Zion to close completely or to be sold, left empty for years and then made into flats, or be sold for a single-purpose business that wouldn't take in the whole demographic of the area. One of the options is the community shares option, which will be explained after this. We would like to see this community shares option work. It's a way to get everyone involved and help Zion continue to provide all the events that it does and to grow with us as a community to make it somewhere to include you. You don't know what you've got till it's gone, and I hope that you'll come together with us to ensure we have Zion in our lives and our communities for many years to come. So, what does Zion mean to you? What could it mean for you? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Amy. Next, we're going to hear from Emma, who's been looking, as Amy said, into community share options, and she's going to tell us a bit more about that.
Right, hello everyone. Well, the technical definition of a community share is, brace yourself for this, a withdrawable, non-transferable equity investment in a cooperative or community benefit society. Hopefully, I can make this a lot clearer and explain why we're exploring this as an option. Community shares were almost unheard of 10 years ago, but over the last decade, over £155 million has been raised through them for over 450 businesses in the UK. This is an opportunity to invest, for many people the first time to invest, in something that you use and you care about. Nationally, these have been as diverse as community shops, pubs, Lidos, football teams, sustainable energy companies, and community farms. Nearer to home, the music venue, The Exchange, near the old Evening Post building, has had a community shares, successful community shares offer, and have bought the lease for their building. The Bell Inn pub in Bath is also community owned, and because of community shares as well, the Bristol Ferry Company down at the docks is also a company community owned. By investing in an enterprise or building, all the people who purchase community shares become members and have a say and how it's run, usually in an annual meeting. Also, it doesn't matter the value of the shares of you own. It's one person, one vote, making the organisation democratic. By coming together to invest as a community, there's a greater chance to secure the building, but also safeguard its future. So, who will run Zion? Zion will carry on in its current form, but with the legal structure of a community benefit society. The organisation would have the added benefit of the additional space offered by the residential building at the rear of the property. The additional space would offer the flexibility of holding multiple events at the same time. The day-to-day running will be done by the wonderful staff sat in the corner there, and overseen by the board of directors. Some of the directors' positions will be filled by shareholding members voted for at the annual meeting. Typically, with share offers, the money is invested in the organisation for 5 years. When the organisation starts to make a profit, interest will be paid on that share investment on an annual basis. Money can be withdrawn after the 5 years, and you could choose to keep the investment in share form. A further share offer could then be open to welcome in new members. There is also schemes like the social investment tax relief, which could benefit individual investors. This could apply to this community share scheme if it's deemed compliant with the HMRC. The fine details of the share structure are yet to be decided. That's where we need your input, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Legally, I have to say, like many investments, your money could be at risk. But at the same time, you will be investing in bricks and mortar, an actual building, and not a startup business with no track record. So, the main benefits. You would have a direct say in what happens here. You would also benefit financially from its success. It's an investment that you can actually see making a positive impact where you live and the people that you know. The new legal structure will also mean that we can apply for a whole range of grants, which Jess mentioned previously, that weren't available to us before. This would be great for maintaining the historic building and developing for the community to face the future. So we are at the start of a possible community shares journey, so we don't have all the answers and full details yet. Some of that we will need your help with if you're able. If you have skills you may think that be useful, even if it's delivering a few leaflets or if you'd like to be involved in forming a share offer, then please let us know by filling out your slips in front of you. So, looking at the finance. Although both the buildings have been valued at $475,000 for community use, we don't have to raise the whole amount. So this is a breakdown. As now you can see, we can raise the capital with different financial streams of revenue. This one shows 50% of a government ownership fund, which is just opened, 25% bank loan, and 25% community shares. So if any of you can work that out fast, it's around about 118,000 that we would need to raise in community shares. Some of the information that you've been asked for on the slip may seem a bit weird, like how much you would want to pledge, but the people who provide grants and all the important match funding to support community shares offer like to know if a share offer will be viable and has to support the community before they will give us any money, basically. So the ideal scenario would be this model, but there is also another model. I've put up an alternative model up there because without the community ownership fund money, it's always best to have a plan B. This would increase the bank loan, but it's still manageable with the current amount of revenue. And it would include match funding, matching the amount the community can raise from the co-op, which you already have a dialogue with. So that's the information about raising the finance. Is there any questions at all? Stony silence. Did I do a really good job, or were you just a bit befuddled?
What about the upkeep of the building? So where does the money come from for any maintenance of the building?
Well, the maintenance, it would be built into our budget anyway, and we have a reserves for anything, if anything untoward's happened.
There wouldn't be any additional costs?
So, no, there wouldn't be any additional costs. The money that you're paying is locked away for the 5 years. So, hello.
You're just aiming to buy a building?
Yes.
Are you fundraising for more?
Well, we could, there's 3 lots. When you do a community share, you have the minimum amount. This is getting quite technical here about community shares. You've got the minimum amount, which we would aim to buy both parts of the building. Then we would have like an optimum amount, which would be around £25,000. And that would be to actually connect the 2 buildings. So that means that that space behind, there's quite a large ground floor space that we could knock through, reinstate the original door, and then that can be used for other activities while the cafe's carrying on.
Any idea what sort of share value might be?
Well, that's what we would need people to help with, a steering group, because then we can decide what the minimum value would be for somebody to become a member, because we are aware that, finances are tough for some people. So you would be looking so they can still be involved as a member, and then the amount you can invest would go up. So again, we would need a steering committee so people can come together and we discuss what sort of the minimum investment would be so for you to become a member.
How does the proposed bank loans within the community share models compare to the current bank loan with Triodos?
It is with Triodos. Triodos have said it would actually be less than we would be paying for the rent on the hall. I think is that right? I can't see where Jess has gone.
Yeah, it's kind of comparable in amounts. So Zion pays a rent which pays back more, is a commercial mortgage in effect. So the loan is pretty much the same. So yeah. And that's without adding the income for the space. Obviously, that's going to bring another income stream.
Where would it be looking, where would you be looking for the investment?
Right, so in theory, everything will be launched in April. So we would have a period of preparation now, getting the share offer together, deciding on all the fine details, like the offer, the minimum offer amount, how it's going to be paid, finding a suitable platform, which I've been speaking to Crowdfunder on Friday. So ironing out all of those really fine details, and then we would be launching in April. That's the plan anyway, Drew.
Do you want us to put down an estimated amount we might have by April, or how much we can definitely commit to today?
It's just a roundabout ballpark figure. Like I said, the co-op who I'm speaking to, can fund elements of it, they want to know what the take-up is, if you see what I mean. It's a really weird and awkward question, but it's like one of those things, they just want to gauge it, so I would have to feed that back to them.
We saw the turnover. I was just wondering about the profit. They're two quite different things.
Yeah.
So we are not for profit at the moment. It's it's very difficult here because it's a moral issue as much as anything. I'm not particularly money driven, as you can probably tell. So there are a lot of events here that I've done over the years that I felt needed to be here. Can everybody hear me? Sorry if we can't, just say. There are many events that we run that do not make us money. There are some that make us a loss, and that's a moral decision by me, because I feel that when we have a bar night, like a Jamaican music night, that will bring money in, that will cover loss in other areas. That is how I foresee a community centre working. Part of the reason that this would be great is if there's a steering committee, you can make another decision, which is actually all of these events really don't make us any money, we should make more money. And so at the moment we are 80% sustainable for our income. 20% comes from grants that pay for projects. I don't know how much that would change. That would really depend on the group who got together and decide what the way forward is. There are things, obviously, Serena is our wedding planner, the weddings are building up, they bring in quite a big revenue. We've looked at the potential income, and I've been very conservative about the potential income that the rooms next door could bring in, and based it on one room being at sort of 3/4 capacity. But actually there are 4 rooms that could be offices stroke spaces to be used, and that would make quite a healthy profit based on that cash flow. So it's not an answer I can give you straight away, because it would depend on how this place is run and what you just choose to do, but basically bringing the house into it gives it a much better future.
And speaking to people locally when we've been door knocking, a lot of people got to travel out of the area, travel out of Bishopsworth Ward to actually access anything. They've got to be travelling down into Bedminster or travel up to Hartcliffe, the Withywood Centre. And for some people, that's additional barriers constantly, whether it's paying for petrol or paying for bus fare, you know. So if it was something that maybe didn't make money and just broke even all the time, it's adding to the community and things that people could be doing in it.
Yeah, how much of the current revenue coming in comes purely from the cafe? Is it the other streams bringing in significant revenues as well?
Like driving's dead. No, we've always held at this as well. To give you the absolute answer, when the financial plan is put together, all that information will go in, because there's obviously quite a lot. There are 4 basic income streams. The cafe is probably about, I want to say off the top of my head, I don't want to misquote myself, but let's say 60%. Events are very close to that. Maybe the cafe and the events it depends how many events we program in. But the cafe is the main income, then it will be the events through the bar, then it's hire, and again the hire could go up, could go down, that depends. There's a lot to do with the capacity of staff. Obviously, we've been through 18 months, which has changed a lot. What I would say is we deliberately brought in more staff in order to make sure when we reopened it after COVID that we could grow, because we could tell that it was going to get busier. So what I would say is that our outgoings are pretty much as high as they would be, and our income is now gradually getting bigger each month to meet that. And the other thing is weddings is the 4th income stream. So that's basically I broke it down. But obviously in the financial plan we would be very specific in giving all that information. But just to say, Triodos are very happy. We've never missed a payment, and they're very happy, and they're really happy to carry on supporting this space. So that hopefully sales at Soames School.
Are there any more questions? Am I missing anyone?
Phew.
So there'll be plenty of time to chat to all the directors at the end if you do have any more questions you don't want to shout out in front of everyone. But now I'm going to hand over to Andy, who's going to talk a little bit more about those forms.
Good evening. This is where I say new slide. That's what Boris said. New slide, please. You got it? Good. Okay. I had a good look round earlier on, and I'm not sure if there's anyone who's going to be able to answer this question apart from Jess, because she answered it the other night. Does anyone, if you can see it all, know the link between all these photographs? I'm not going to spend all night looking at them, but anybody? No? Well, I'll give you half a point. They all used to be something different than they actually are. They used to be a grocer's, a vegetable shop, a Sunday school, a garage, a doctor's surgery, and it used to be Amsterdam Boys Club. Yes, it did. Things change. Progress, they call it progress. We actually don't ever really know whether it's progress until the change has been implemented, and years later we look back on it. But of course, I've seen all these changes because I was lucky enough to be born on this estate in 1953. And I've lived and worked in the area ever since. And I've seen change and been impacted by change, and I assume everybody in this room has seen and been impacted by change. What is change? They say change brings about progress. Well, back in 1953, all the shops were local. Chemists, butchers, wet fish shop, Mr. Long was opposite, Bryant's, greengrocers, Dyer's, Green, everything was local. And then the world was introduced to automobiles and cars. And so with mobility became the ability for people to move about, to go to different places, and people did. So they built supermarkets and sports halls, and everybody got in their cars and drove everywhere. And as a consequence, the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers, and the wet fish shop all closed. And now, 2021, we've been told to abandon that idea. We mustn't use cars, it's bad for the environment. They want us to walk everywhere, but only if we had local shops and greengrocers can we do it. Because we certainly don't have a bus service to actually get us anywhere, do we? Not knocking any party, but we don't have a bus service. They say it's progress. The one thing you can say about Bedminster Down in its history is what you've seen today and produced by Jess's Iron has been mirrored in the past by individuals who had a vision, who had a dream that they were going to deliver something special, something different to this community. Originally, it was Joseph Jenkins, his plaque's on the wall somewhere, when he decided he was going to deliver Methodism to the mining area of what was Bedminster Down, miners' cottages. And we go on since then. John Blackmore had a vision with the 266 Scouts. Cliff Price with the 170th. Alan Burnett with the Blenheim Scouts. Steve Long at Bedminster Down Boys Club. And the strength of those organisations and the ability for them to continue has been based on one thing. And that was the support that people in this community gave those organisations. Blenheim Scouts still runs. Bedminster Down Boys Club went on for 14 years, or whatever it was, after Steve Long. Greta Thorne's ideal of having a girls' club, when everyone said, wow, girls' club? Never. She had a dream. She provided it for this community. It's changed because it's had to adapt. Other things have closed. We have to always adapt to be relevant to the community that we serve. And it's no different here. Zion, Jess has a dream. But for that dream to be really fulfilled, it has to continue and grow after that person is gone. The Boys Club continued because voluntary people on this estate believed passionately in the service it was providing to the community. Alan Burnett's Scouts continued because his dream of having a different Scout organisation was acknowledged by the people in this community, and they still run it to this day. Its strength is in understanding that a community comes together, recognises there's a need, recognises a service that's being provided, and ensures that service continues for the benefit of all. And when I talk about the benefit of all, I don't mean us in this room, I mean those that will follow. This community has changed dramatically in the 42 years I've been on the planet, but I probably wouldn't get away with that. The 69 years I've been on this planet. What it needs is for people to get involved. What we need is people's skills. And everyone says, oh God, I've got no skills. Nah, you have got skills. You just don't know you've got them. And we're going to do our best to extract those skills out of you to get you involved in what we're planning in this community. There's a bit of paper. Three people remind. There's a bit of paper on your desk. Got to fill it out. Okay. Fill it out with the information that really means that you're. Do I think it's there? Look, you're already here. You cannot sit here tonight and say you're not interested. If you weren't interested, you wouldn't have walked through the door in the first place. It just wasn't to see a happy, smiling face like me stand up here and spout, was it? Okay? So you need to get involved. Can we do it? Other people have done it. You've heard Emma talk of the other organisations that have successfully ran a campaign and successfully delivered something that their community needed. Of course we can do it. We just have to realise the potential that exists within the community, tap that potential, and then get on and deliver it. Our hopes for the future don't lie in the hands of individuals. They lie in the hands of all. Over 160 years ago, a gentleman had a dream of building a Methodist church. It was actually next door, and he laid the foundations. 160 years later, somebody else had a dream. She had a dream that she was going to come to this area and deliver something unique for the community of Amsterdam. And there she sits. And for her hard work to mean anything, we have to take that dream and deliver it to the next stage. That's why we need your help. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. So, yep, please fill in the forms. Stay around, have some free tea and coffee. If you'd like to buy another drink from the bar, you're very welcome. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much for all coming out. And, yeah, stay around and have a chat. Thank you.